Good morning. For those of you just jumping in, we will begin shortly. In the meantime, if you can put your name and what college you're representing, this webinar will also be recorded, so please be aware. Thank you so much. Awesome. So in essence of time, we'll begin as people jump in. Brandy, if you can just let them in. But again, happy Friday. Welcome to the Automotive Technology Advanced Transportation Regional Advisory in partnership with LARC, Los Angeles Regional Consortium, as well as with the Center of Excellence. I will pass it on to my colleague who will be emceeing the event. So Alicia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jose. Good morning, everybody. My name is Alicia. I'm Assistant Program Manager with the Los Angeles County Economic Development Corporation. Next slide, please, Brandy. So I make up of a team of 4. We have on the call today Jermaine Hampton, who is the Vice President of Workforce Development and Special Projects with LADC. We also have Jose Pelaya, who is the Director within Workforce Development, myself, and Brandy, who is also the Program Coordinator for Workforce Development as well. Next slide, please. And so a lot of the advisories and things that we hold today, these types of info sessions are brought through our partnership that we have with the Los Angeles Regional Consortium that is made up of the 19 community colleges within the LA region. We provide not only info sessions like this, but also career awareness webinars, work-based learning opportunities, and we also host regional program advisories for faculty and deans in the Los Angeles Regional Consortium, such as this. If you're interested in learning more about the work that we do, please visit the website on the screen. The recording will also be posted on the website, so you can have access to that as well, along with the slide deck and the program lookbook that we have. At the end of the presentation, we will have a feedback poll. It's just a few questions, and we ask you to answer when the time comes. Next slide, please. So next up, we have Dr. McKeeshan, who is the Chair and Assistant Vice President of the Los Angeles Regional Consortium.
Thank you so much, Alicia and Jose. It is with great pleasure that I extend a warm welcome to each of you, our LA 19 college faculty, dean, staff, and industry partners. Your presence and expertise are invaluable assets to our career and technical education programs, and we are truly honored and grateful to have you as part of our Automotive Technology Program Advisory today. Thank you, LAEDC team, and Luke Meyer, our Centers of Excellence Director, for your commitment and dedication to our LA 19 colleges and your efforts in organizing today's program advisory. LARC is a consortium of LA 19's community colleges working collectively to deliver on a promise that California community colleges are accessible and affordable to all who seek opportunities to realize a better future. Our objective is to address the skills gap by increasing the availability of well-trained, skilled workforce in LA County. This will not only close the supply and demand gap, but also increase economic and social mobility for our LA County students and residents. We deeply appreciate your commitment to supporting our programs, and LARC is dedicated to offering leadership on career and technical education initiatives within the region with a focus on equity. Through collaboration with educators, industry experts, and community partners, we strive to support students, foster a skilled workforce, and adapt to the needs of the regional workforce ecosystem. We look forward to an engaging discussion, innovative ideas, and collaborative initiatives with all of you today. Together, we can create an enriching learning environment that prepares our students to become leaders and innovators in the industry. Thank you for joining us today. Your dedication and expertise are invaluable, and we are excited about the meaningful impact we will achieve together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. McKeishan. Next slide, please. Next, we also have Jermaine Hampton, who is the Vice President of Workforce Development and Special Projects.
Thank you, Alicia. I hope all is well, and good morning, everyone. Thank you so much. Definitely want to say thank you to all of our employer partners that are on the call, the Los Angeles Regional Consortium for the Partnership Center of Excellence, and then obviously all of the educators, deans, and school representatives that are on the call as well. LADC, Los Angeles Economic Development Corporation. I'm the Vice President of Workforce Development and Special Projects with LADC. And our mission is really about reinventing our economy to collaboratively advance growth and prosperity for all. And so when we talk about automotive technology and advanced transportation, that really falls into our industry cluster programming and workforce development as well. But here at LADC, we really have a 5-pillar approach to economic development, which really starts with research. So everything we do is driven by research, which then feeds into industry cluster development. And that's the development of one ecosystem at a time to really drive growth and prosperity in that particular sector as well. In addition to that, we have our business assistance model, which is really about attracting businesses into the region and helping them grow and advance and scale, but also working with small, medium, and large businesses that already exist in LA County and helping them to scale, grow, and build as well. In addition to that, we have international trade or foreign direct investment. So again, bringing investments into the region to help it grow. And then obviously workforce development as well, so that we are aligning and really bringing our education partners and our industry partners together as one to work collaboratively. And then outside of that, I would really just say, I'm looking forward to a vibrant conversation today. Automotive technology and obviously advanced transportation are huge to the region. You know that we have very close to 800 billion in GDP when you're looking at LA County. So in terms of revenue share, advanced transportation is, worth roughly around 10 billion of that. So it's a huge economic driver here in the region. It creates thousands of jobs. I want to say close to 50,000 when you're looking across multiple disciplines within that industry cluster alone. So thank you again, and looking forward to a vibrant conversation, and thank you, team.
Great, thank you, Jermaine. Next we have perfect. We have Matthew Skyberg, who is the GIS research analyst at the Institute of Applied Economics here at LADC. Matthew.
All right, thank you, Alicia. So as Alicia said, my name is Matthew Skyberg, and I'm the GIS research analyst with the Institute for Applied Economics at LADC. And today I'm going to be sharing several aspects of the advanced transportation and automotive technology sector, including the current landscape of employment, the anticipated future employment, job posting trends, and finally, worker demographics. Next slide. So for the advanced transportation automotive technology, we really drilled down to 5 detailed SOC codes. Those being, Okay, yep, there we go. So those are automotive body and related repairs, automotive glass installers and repairs, automotive service technicians and mechanics, bus and truck mechanics and diesel engine specialists, and finally, motorcycle mechanics. Next slide. So we'll start with the current landscape. This sector and the specific SOC codes we're looking at, they employed over 20,000 people each year between 2013 and 2023. And payroll employment did fall by about 7.5% between 2019 and 2022, or 2020 due to the pandemic. But as you can see, it's rebounded quite nicely since then at a rate of about 15.5% from 2020 to 2023. And it's reached its highest level in this time period in 2023. So it is a growing sector. In comparison to overall employment in Los Angeles County grew about 10% from 2020 to 2023. So this is outpacing that by about 5.5%. Next slide. So as we look at the employment distribution and how it's evolved from 2013 to 2023, we can see that automotive service technicians has had the largest share of employment since 2013, but it has decreased by about 10% from 2013 to 2023. While bus and truck mechanics and diesel engine specialists is growing by over 5% in this time period, up to nearly 27%. And automotive body and related repairs has grown by over 3 percentage points to remain third, while automotive glass installers and repairs has grown by about 1 percentage point to match motorcycle mechanics, where they both sit at 1.6% in 2023. Next slide. So looking at the median annual pay for these occupations, 4 of the 5 occupations that we selected are exceeding the MIT living wage threshold for LA County, with only automotive glass installers and repairs narrowly falling below this threshold. Bus and truck mechanics and diesel engine specialists led the way with a median annual wage of nearly $75,000, which is over 1.5 times the county's living wage threshold. And in comparison, the median annual wage across all occupations in LA County was just over $67,300. So these sectors are catching up to that, and they are growing, making them more competitive. The wage growth is happening. Next slide. So looking at that real wage growth, from 2013 to 2023, real wages in the sector grew by nearly 20%. The highest increase was seen in automotive glass installers and repairs, where real wages grew by over 44%. In contrast, the overall real wage growth in LA County across all sectors was approximately 15% during this time period. So we can see that the automotive transportation, or advanced transportation automotive technology is outpacing the general wage growth across the county. And next slide. So looking ahead at forecasted employment, we can see that the employment is forecasted to grow by over 6% from 2023 to 2029. That's going to add nearly approximately 1,430 new jobs, which works out to about 240 new jobs per year in LA County. The next slide. So within these occupations, they are growing at different rates. We can see that the automotive glass installers and repairs is expected to see the highest growth rate at just over 10%. And all occupations except motorcycle mechanics are forecasted to, which is going to be staying relatively the same. The rest of the occupations are growing by over 5% in this sector. And the overall sector growth is over 6%. By comparison with LA County, which is projected to grow about 5% across all occupations in the same time period. So the rate of growth is happening at a faster rate than the county as a whole. Next slide. And now turning to the employer job postings. So the job postings have been steadily increasing from 2012 to 2023. They peaked in 2022 with nearly 7,900 unique job postings. And looking at the share, the pie chart, we can see that automotive service technicians represents many of these postings, followed by bus and truck mechanics and diesel engine specialists, where those two combined make up nearly 90% of total job postings. Next slide. So now just looking at the job posting trends by occupation from 2012 to 2023, you can see that automotive service technicians has been the clear leader in job postings. They peaked in 2022 with over 4,150 job postings. And bus and truck mechanics and diesel engine specialists was second highest. But they did experience dips in 2018 and 2021. where in 2021, automotive body and related repairs nearly overtook them for the second spot, but has continued to maintain the third place during this time period. And we can see at the bottom of the graph that automotive glass installers and repairs and motorcycle mechanics have continued to have the fewest job postings in this time period. All right, next slide. So looking at the year-to-year variability with these occupations, you can see that automotive glass installers and repairs and motorcycle mechanics have had the most year-to-year variability. They've had some years of over 230% growth, but they've also had some years of more than 60% decline. While automotive body and related repairs have also experienced a decent amount of variability, with some years of growing to over 130% and decline to nearly 150 or decline of 50%. While the automotive service technicians has been the most stable, followed by bus and truck mechanics and diesel engine specialists, with their average year-to-year change of just over 12% and 17% respectively. Next slide. So these job postings are coming from a variety of sources, but just to zoom in on the top 6 companies, we have Bridgestone Corporation, Pep Boys, AutoNation, Goodyear, MB Transportation, and finally Valvoline. So Bridgestone and Goodyear are well-known tire corporations that have automotive service centers as well. Pep Boys, a well-known aftermarket service chain with service centers. AutoNation is a prominent automotive retailer. MV Transportation is a leading provider of passenger transportation services. And finally, Valvoline is a well-known oil and lubricant products corporation with automotive service centers. So we can see there's a lot of different pathways with just these top 6 companies. Next slide. However, these top 6 companies, we can see that Bridgestone and Pep Boys both are leading the way with 3% of posted opportunities, but the top 6 combined only account for 12% of job postings in this time frame. So the remaining 88% of job postings are coming from a wide variety of other companies, which reflects the diverse nature of employment opportunities within advanced transportation and automotive technology, the sector in Los Angeles County. Next slide. So now we'll turn to the industry demographics, starting with workers' age. So we can see that over 46% of employees in this sector are between 25 and 44 years old. That's almost 4% higher than other occupations in LA County. Workers between 45 and 64 years old are 3 percentage points higher than all occupations. And the workers that are 65 years or older are actually 3 percentage points lower compared to all occupations. So you can see there's a higher portion of prime working age employees in this sector. Next slide. So now looking at the education attainment of workers in this sector, only 4% of the workers have a bachelor's degree or higher, which is 25 percentage points less than all occupations in LA County. Workers with some college or an associate degree are nearly 9 percentage points higher compared to all occupations. And we can see that these occupations are highly accessible for individuals with community college level education. Next slide. So now we're looking at the race and ethnicity of workers. We can see that over half the workers in this sector report their ethnicity as Hispanic or Latino, and it's nearly 17 percentage points higher than the all occupation average in LA County. Asian and Pacific Islander workers, as well as Black or African American workers, however, are underrepresented. They're about 50% less than the all occupation average in LA County. Next slide. So gender of workers is where we're seeing the highest level of skew. Industry workforce is nearly entirely male at 98%, just over 98%, compared to the total of all occupations where it skews slightly female at 51%. So this is definitely a sector where we could see a need to have better disparity between the genders. All right, next slide. So just looking at the selected occupations and their their demographics, we can see that all these occupations are accessible to workers with a community college level education. About 63 to 72% of the workers in these occupations have some college or an associate's level degree. Female workers, as we said, are significantly underrepresented, with only automotive glass installers and repairs having the highest rate, but it's still just 4.9% female. Hispanic workers are the most overrepresented in automotive body and related repair occupations, where they account for just over 62%. And white workers are overrepresented in the motorcycle mechanics occupation, where they're over 23 percentage points higher compared to all occupations in LA County. Okay, next slide. So in conclusion, just looking at some of the key takeaways, we can see that real wages in this sector grew by nearly 20% over the past decade, outpacing the county's overall wage growth. Most occupations offer wages above the living wage threshold, and wages are growing at a faster rate than the county average. And the sector is forecasted to grow by over 6% through 2029, adding jobs at a faster rate than the general job market. All right, next slide. So that concludes my portion of the presentation. Thank you everybody for your time and attention. If you do have any questions, you can reach out to me at matthew.skyberg@laedc.org, and I'd be happy to engage with you any further through email. All right, thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Matthew. Really appreciate that. Can you go to the next slide, please, Randy? Next up, we have Luke Meyer, who is the director for the Los Angeles Center of Excellence for the Labor Market Research, hosted at Mount San Antonio College.
Thank you, Alicia, and thanks, Matt. The thing that jumped out to me when you were presenting, looking at the small share of female workers in the industry, you'll see, although we have a small portion or a smaller portion of females in terms of students, they account for about 10% of our students, so a little bit higher than those in the workforce. So, Alicia, go ahead with the next slide. So when we look at our programs related to automotive technology, you can see on the left, those are the 10 colleges offering programs in that realm. And then we have programs from alternative fuels, collision and auto body repair, diesel technology, and then LA Trade Tech is the only college that offers the motorcycle courses. Looking at the number of completions, you can see that the vast majority are within automotive technology there, averaging over 600 awards over the last 3 years, increasing each year and on down the line. Let's see here. In the lookbook, if any of you are looking at it, there are illustrative job titles program titles for all these programs. So like automotive technology, everything from brakes to steering to oil change and lubricant to specific employer specifications from General Motors, Toyota, Tesla, Honda, and others that our colleges work with. So I can't speak to that as well as a lot of the faculty that are on our call. So we will get to that in a little bit. Next slide, please. All right. When we look at enrollments, you can see that over the last 10 years, we started with just under 5,000, and now we're just under 3,000. The decline from 2019 to 2020 was pretty significant, and that was a lot would attribute that to COVID. If that last year in this enrollment trend is ignored, it largely reflects the general trend of declining enrollments at the community colleges. Now, that has picked up since 2020 and 2021. That's worth noting. And then by college, you can see that Cerritos, LA Trade Tech, Rio Hondo all enroll over 400 students, with Long Beach, Pasadena, and LA Pierce right behind, with Citrus as well. Next. All right, so this is what I was talking about in terms of our students. So about 9 out of 10 are male students. Just about 3/4 identify as Hispanic, and this is a young population of students here. So they are starting out learning a lot about automotive repair. And I know it won't move the needle much, but in terms of employment with females accounting for less than 5%, we have 10% female. So we could recruit more, and they could also fill some of those positions. Next. All right, the next 4 slides, we are looking at employment outcomes of students exiting these programs. So students are asked whether or not the job they're working in is related to what they studied in college. And if you see over the last 2 years, nearly 80% of automotive technology students report working in a job closely related to their field of study, slightly above that of the average across all, which is 3 in every 4 students. And that has increased over the years, which is encouraging. Next. Median change in earnings. So in red, you have the average for all CTE programs. In blue, you have those for automotive technology. So you see students are benefiting at a higher rate comparing their wages before starting the program to after completing it from automotive technology compared to the average across all programs, with the most recent data showing that students are increasing their earnings by 44%. Next. This is the median annual earnings that students after exiting are earning. So again, blue in automotive technology, red across all CTE programs. And you can see that our students exiting automotive technology programs are consistently earning less than the average across all CTE programs. We'd love to see both of these numbers come up with the automotive tech students lagging by about $4,000 in the most recent year. Next. This is the portion of students that attained a living wage. So Matt referenced the MIT living wage of, I think it was just about 48,000. This, at the time that this data was collected, was around 38,000 and some change, between 38 and 39,000. And so you can see that under a third of our students are earning a living wage. This really puts a precedent on getting our students into jobs that are able to provide for themselves and for their families. We'd love to see all of this closer to 100%. Next. And we focused on, because automotive technology has 10 colleges represented, we just focused on the automotive tech occupations. And you can see the service technicians and mechanics are by far the largest, which some of this is a little bit redundant with what Matt shared, but you can see wages there, and you can see the job growth over the next 5 years. Next. And then we also looked at job postings, and the automotive service technicians and mechanics accounted for about 80% of the job postings for these automotive jobs, from everything from auto body to lube technicians, smog technicians, and tire and lube technicians. So those are job titles on the left and employers on the right. Next. And then last but not least, the advertised wage has fluctuated from 52,000 more or less to just above $62,000 per year. With job postings, it can be highly volatile, as Matt also demonstrated. And then in terms of cities, LA, unsurprisingly, leading the way, followed by Long Beach, Torrance, Santa Clarita. That is all. So now we can get to the core and the meat of this and hear from the employers on the call. Thank you for joining us, and as well as our faculty. If you have questions, on the next slide is my contact information. Thank you, Alicia. I'll turn it back to you.
Great. Thanks so much, Luke. Appreciate that. Next up, we're going to go through our roundtable discussion questions. Before that, I see Jermaine, you have your hand raised. Did you want to say anything?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. I might have missed it, Luke. For the certifications that automotive techs are getting at the colleges, is that inclusive of both working on gas-powered and EV vehicles, or is it one or the other? I'm just wondering what the differentiation is. I might have missed it.
No. I didn't even touch on that. So that's a good question for our faculty on the call. In terms of certifications, I know on the automotive side, the ASE certification is huge. In terms of electric vehicles, I'm less familiar with that. So I'd love to hear from what employers are looking for that are on the call, as well as our faculty. Good question, Jermaine.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for that. For next, we have our roundtable discussion questions. We have our panelists here, so thank you so much. We just wanted to say, if you have any questions, we're gonna leave room towards after the end of the roundtable discussion questions to be able to engage with some of the panelists. So feel free to either put it in the chat box or wait until afterwards. And can you go to the next slide, please, Brandy? So first up, we have Oliver. He is a START instructor at Tesla. He is one of 9 Tesla START instructors. They have a 16-week advanced training program that provides skills necessary for a successful career at Tesla and beyond. Prior to becoming an instructor, Oliver spent 15 years as a technician. 7 of those years, he focused on battery-powered electrical vehicles. He held a state of California smog inspector's license for 7 years as well. Oliver got into the automotive to help people and the environment as well. He is able to do both and is now teaching the next generation. And the next panelist we have, can you get the next one? Thank you. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced your name. Ariel. She is a transportation strategist at Waymo. She, with a unique combination of not only public health, design thinking, and planning expertise, in her current role as a policy development and research manager at Waymo, she develops policies on the transportation issues that matter to cities, such as congestion, transit integration, equity, and data sharing. This role builds on her previous experience at SPUR, as well as SFMTA, where she developed programs and policies to create a high-quality transportation system in the Bay Area. Most recently, she served at as a liaison of the Board of Supervisors at SFDPH, where she spearheaded vaccination clinics and supported the city's economic reopening, the most rewarding work of her career. And as our next panelist, we also have Timothy, who is the Director of Operation at Rosnack Auto Group, as a Director of Fixed Operation at Rosnack Auto Group and a former VP and Managing Partner for Bernie Moreno Companies. Timothy looks forward to using his skills and experience of managing luxury automotive dealerships to provide the best for the clients, employees, and manufacturer experience as possible. He is excited to work with the exceptional team at Rosnack in a leadership role as part of 800 committed professionals that make the Southern California dealership group so respected in the industry. As for our last panelist, we have Jeff, who has over 33 years of experience. Jeff held many positions in the automotive technology industry. Prior to his role, he was president of the Kubey, Nissan, and Champion Motors. Jeff currently serves as the president of Honda of Pasadena since 2010, who is now the VP of Honda Marin since 2022, and SoCal Honda Ad Association president since 2018. So these are our panelists, and with that, I'll get over with the first questions that will be moderated by Jose and myself as well.
Yeah, thank you, Alicia. Brandy, if you can remove the deck so we can see all the panelists, I would greatly appreciate that. In the meantime, I just want to reiterate what our colleagues here have been saying. Thank you so much for everyone attending here this Friday morning, specifically the deans and faculty across the 19 community colleges, and of course to our esteemed panelists. Very eager to hear your feedback and expertise. So before we begin, quite a few things stood out for me on the demand side. So you see a consistent growth and you see a 6% growth till 2029. But for me also, the work that still needs to be done in building equitable pipelines, as 98% males are currently dominating the automotive repair and maintenance. And then on the supply side, we see that 10 of the 19 community colleges are offering programs. And then we see that 606 on average are graduating certificates. So a lot of work that can be done. In essence, we're very excited for this forum. Faculty and deans, this is an opportunity to engage. With that being said, we'd love to jump into the first question. The first question is open to all the panelists. We'd love to kind of begin with maybe Ariel. As we see the new part of the new advanced clean cars 2 regulation, which allows California to go zero emission by 2035. We see a lot of changes that are probably coming down the line. So first question is, what do you suggest community colleges need to learn, or what do you think community colleges need to learn about the current state and the emerging trends of the industry?
Yeah, thank you for having me today. It's really exciting to be part of this conversation. So I work at Waymo, which is an autonomous driving technology company, and we are focused on really creating this cutting edge autonomous driving tech that can improve mobility. But we also do a lot of thinking around how addressing today's transportation challenges is going to bring about changes in the workforce, and thinking about how do we ensure a smooth transition to this new era of mobility. And the way we think about it as Waymo is essentially that we have this full economy being built up around AVs. I like to, think of it as an image of an AV in the middle and all these new burgeoning industries around it, because the development and deployment and maintenance of AVs are going to create this new range of jobs, business job opportunities. And in fact, we have research from Steer, the consulting company, that was pushed or created by the Chamber of Progress, which is an organization focused on advancing technical solutions, that found that not only are AVs lifesavers, they're job creators too, that for 190 jobs will be created for every 1,000 AVs deployed, which is really exciting. And a lot of those jobs are going to be in production, distribution, maintenance, upgrades, and repair needs. And so I think from where I sit, and there was earlier work from the Aspen Institute as well, looking at the types of jobs that will create in the AV industry, is really the importance of these conversations and understanding we have, like I said, these 190 jobs for every 1,000 AVs, and this two-way communication of what jobs are going to be created in what specifically within AV manufacturing and repair, and learning more about the curriculum that you have and being able to tailor or change the curriculum or enhance that curriculum to meet, again, these burgeoning job types that are coming in the AV industry. So I think the best thing to do is, again, these types of dialogues, going deeper into the curriculum, identifying those key skill sets, and figuring out what needs to shift and change.
No, thank you for that, Ariel. And hopefully with this forum, we are able to establish further partnerships with the community college to create those curriculums for the EV. So I'd like to segue to Oliver. Oliver, anything you want to add to any current state or emerging trends that we should be aware of within the industry? I know you have a vast experience over 7 years within the industry and specific as a technician. So we'd love to hear your input.
Yeah, everybody, thank you for having me. I just wanted to make sure that everyone understands that emerging trends and future technologies are still based on existing technologies, and we shouldn't really focus on let's say brand new technology at first without a really strong fundamental core program first. Okay, so I run into a lot of technicians come in, they're really certified, they have a lot of accomplishments, they can rebuild an EV motor or take apart a battery and stuff, but we forget that probably 3/4 of the repairs are not high voltage related, and they're actually still interior panels, glass being cracked, windows not going up and down, seats not moving, and things like that. So we tend to always add things, and we forget about the fundamentals that need to be there still.
No, that's a great point. Fundamentals, and actually hearing that from you, and your experience, it's crucial. We'll love to segue to Tim or Jeff for any feedback on the current state and emerging trends from your perspective.
Sure. This is Tim. Hi, everybody. It's a very, very interesting time in the automotive world right now, because we have all this new technology. Electromobility is not going away. It is the future, as we all know, but this hesitancy to give up the past. So, it's a strange time where dealerships are, for the most part, still carrying and selling, gasoline engine powered, gasoline vehicles and/or hybridized vehicles, and also electric vehicles. So it's a very, there's not going to be at this time anyway, it doesn't look like there's going to be a lot of advancements more in the combustion phase, just simply because the electrical mobility platform it outperforms. So realistically, it's going to be a challenging time for all. While the complexity of electromobility is greatly reduced, yes, mechanically it's still got tires and suspension components and everything that Oliver just mentioned. The challenge is going to be where the technicians today are transforming from that, ICE platform, which is very, it has a lot, it takes a lot to move a car with internal combustion. And, it's physically very demanding, which is realistically why we're not seeing as many females in the workforce. It's very, very physical work. So, as far as preparing students for the future, it's very hard because the future is unclear as far as the rate of adoption. It is going to be a pretty substantial adoption curve over the next few years as manufacturers stop investing in ICE, right? So, but they can't stop investing in ICE because ICE is what generates their profits, and it's just a very strange time. So where many OEMs have made the decision to move forward with electromobility, they are dependent on that ICE contribution to make that transition. So it's just strange. As far as at the dealership level, we need to have people that can handle every car that's sold, regardless of drivetrain. And, the students that are coming out today, they're not fully prepared for, what the reality of all aspects of automotive repair. They're, I think some, as Oliver mentioned, want to be a little bit too specialized. But it's an awful lot for them to know, to fully grasp the complexities of ICE, then hybrid, then BEV. And it's a lot on the plates. One thing I wanted to mention, I'm from the East Coast and I'm a little under the weather, so my voice is a little odd, but here it's very different than the Midwest or the East Coast, and obviously with California playing its lead in the EV adoption, I think just based on the students and what they're used to, people work on what they're comfortable with. And we represent mainly all European manufacturers. We have one Asian manufacturer, but what we find here is that we have less applicants than we would like because they just don't feel that they're familiar with the product. So they may not have been around the products long enough to become familiar, and or that they just, don't have the relevancy in their personal life that make them, that they think, oh, I can fix, a Mercedes-Benz or a Porsche or a Rolls-Royce. They don't, we need to do a good job opening their eyes to saying, hey, cars are manufactured in different ways. They all have their own lanes that they need to stay in as far as, what makes the cars different. But, I don't think that they get a lot of exposure to Highline European brands, which is difficult. And then adding in the traffic situations and neighborhood situations and price of, cost of living situations, it makes it quite difficult. Even for like Pasadena, we're in 4-5 counties, but Pasadena is our home base, and Pasadena City College is great, but it's very difficult to get students that are open to working on, the more specialized vehicles. So hope I didn't ramble on too much, but that's my take.
No, thank you, Tim, and thank you for taking the time, even though you're not feeling very well. So appreciate those comments. Jeff, would want to segue to you for any comments on any current state and emerging trends that we should be aware of within the industry. I don't, Jeff, are you?
Hold on, was that better?
Yes, there we go.
So anyways, my name is Jeff Christoffel. I currently am the owner of Honda Pasadena. I have another dealership up in the Bay Area in Marin County called Honda Marin. And I want to first off say thank you for letting me join this call. But after hearing the other two speakers, I just wanted to say I had a Japanese executive come to visit me about 6 months ago, maybe it was a year ago. And the first thing he said to me was, how are we going to survive with electrification as a dealer group? And I said, I had to think about that question for a while because, like Tim said before, it's going to change everything. Eventually, it's going to change everything, the way we do things. And, we built these big service departments with lifts everywhere, and, you have to get bigger lifts. You have to have different training. But what I'm seeing from, running multiple stores and being involved heavily in advertising is the demand for electric vehicles, and Honda doesn't really have as much experience as Oliver with Tesla, or Tim with, I think Audi has quite a few electric cars, and Porsche has some electric cars. We just got a brand new Honda that's a great car, the Prologue, but I can sell way more CRV hybrids and CRV Civic hybrids, and anything hybrid is just, it's selling like crazy, but the demand for the electric vehicles is not the same as the hybrid technology. So I think that there's still quite a demand for that technology. And I think the focus for some of the community colleges is to, that's still a popular model. And I think it's going to be popular for a long time. And the electrification is coming, and there's nothing we can do to stop it. But I think there is still a big demand for that. So I would think the community colleges need to know that the training for that technology should be part of the curriculum as well. So a lot of dealers are scared to death of all electric. It's not really cost effective for manufacturers. I think they're scared of it too. So the ability to do these mass productions for a economical electrical car, they haven't figured it out yet. So I think that's going to be a challenge for them on their side. And we talk about it all the time in our meetings, and it's coming, but we'll have to figure it out. So.
No, thank you, Jeff. I want to keep it there, and I know Tim spoke a little bit about the next question, but one of the most important factors within a business component, also education, is a workforce gap. So we'd like to hear your perspective on what are your current workforce needs and challenges that you're currently facing at Honda Pasadena.
Workforce needs. Right now, I'm probably fully staffed with technicians. You always hire a good one if you can have one that comes along that's ready to work. But probably the most challenging thing for me when I first got here was developing career paths for technicians. So whenever you'd hire a guy, say bring a loop tech in from, community college, they would just kind of get lost out there. So what we did is we developed a career path where when I hire somebody day one, I would say, okay, here's what you're going to start at. But if you want to make, that 65, 70 grand a year, which some of my technicians are making, probably the Porsche guys are making way more than that. You're going to have to complete this training, and there's going to be some checkpoints along the way. So we developed like a 5-tiered system to give these guys hope when they come in that they're not going to just stay at that low rate, but they're going to have to be able to get to certain efficiency levels, have quality, be able to work as a teammate, and communicate. So getting these guys to stay on track is probably one of the most difficult things for me, is because they kind of get lost in the shop. So you have to have a really good mentor program, and I think that really helps out when you're trying to overcome some of those challenges.
No, thank you, Jeff. Tim, any your most important workforce needs as you oversee a vast group of auto dealerships. So we'd love to hear, again, most important workforce needs. I know you touched based on a little bit of the challenges, but we'd love to hear your side.
Well, I think, like Jeff said, developing a career path so that people can enter the field and then get all the way through, to a situation where they prosper is key. So yes, good employers will make sure that they have that path laid out for their entry-level people. Overall, the business is changing. So beyond just the technical needs, technicians and at all levels, you also have all the support, like service advisors, which, I would recommend that, automotive students have more time spent in the service advisor role, especially female ones where they're, the work is a little bit, challenging, to be able to look at as a career path, because it is an excellent career path. As far as mobile technicians, mobile service, all of those, anything that supports the overall automotive dealership, including sales. Having people that are smart on how cars work also makes them very valid salespeople, because they can explain the features and benefits of particular systems on the car. So yeah, it's the automotive field in general is one of the best employment sectors I think you can be in for the average person, especially that have some approach things in the proper way. It's an excellent field to be in, and not it's one that I don't think people understand the full opportunities. So, and maybe doing a better job saying, hey, this is really what happens. And yes, technicians are very, very well paid. The ones that take the time to master the craft and, invest in that 5, 6, 7 years of learning, which is, by the time, I always tell people, by the time a doctor graduates medical school and, they're 30 years old, some of our technicians could have, made $500,000 or more in that same time frame, without the same level of debt. So, it is definitely a very lucrative situation that we want to get people in.
No, thank you for that, Tim. And I think another component of it is, you're right, bringing career awareness, but also understanding the landscape of LA and understanding that maybe a 2-year, 4-year might not be the route for specific marginalized populations. So certificates and entering the field and being able to make sustainable wages as they grow, as Jeff mentioned, some of the programs that they're offering. So I love that perspective that you mentioned. I'd love to segue to Oliver. Anything that you're hearing in regards to Tesla? What are your most important workforce needs and challenges that you're facing at the moment with maybe some of the technicians that are coming in?
Yeah, so for us, we get a lot of applicants come in, and it's kind of difficult for technicians to understand that it's not really just a job. This is like a career, and the development is endless, right? But the thing is, it takes time and investments outside of school, a lot of dedication and hard work, right? So when they say like blood, sweat, and tears, it's for real. Like automotive, it's very physical, it's very demanding, and it's also very mental too. The new technology is incredibly difficult, right? There's engineers that come out and look, it's like, how do you guys do this, right? It's like, no idea, right? Just we have determination and we want to progress and we want to get really good at what we do. A 2-year degree does or a 4-year degree doesn't necessarily prove that you'd be able to do it, right? The thing about trades is, not only do you need to have bookwork, but you also need to be able to translate that into your hands, right? So at the end of the day, you can, in theory, theorize all you want, right? But if you can't fix the car, you're not gonna get very far in the industry, right? We need people to perform, and be willing to take criticism and be able to put in the hard work and get to where they want to go. Unfortunately, sometimes it could take a long time, right? So to get really good at what you do, I'd say like maybe between like 5 to 7 years of, and then you're like, oh, hey, I'm pretty good, right? And then you get new technologies, but guess what? Those won't be as hard because a lot of it's 80% is based on previous technologies, right? So you just keep adding to your tool belts. But to get young students and to get young people to see the path is very hard, right? That's my 2 cents.
No, I appreciate that, Oliver. I love that perspective and understanding that this field specifically is hard work and it's different. So, Ariel, we'll love to segue a different perspective from Waymo. Anything that you're currently facing regarding your important workforce needs or challenges at the moment?
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to speak to was a program that we recently launched with LA Tech down in LA that really had two goals. One is focused around professional development. So LA Tech runs these career academies, and we paired Waymo staff as mentors with the students to help support them in their professional journey. And this is just on like resumes and interviews and networking, really helping build those soft skills of these folks as they seek to create their first career in tech. So again, the goal of LA Tech's programming is to bring communities of color and first generation college students into the tech pipeline generally. And what we did with LA Tech, which was really exciting, is we created a 2-week intensive program called the AV Experience. And a cohort of those students applied to be in this program, which is focused primarily on demystifying AVs. What are AVs? What do they do? How do they work? And what are the jobs available in the AV sector? And then we took these students to the Google office in LA in Playa Vista, and we brought 2 cars. And they got to see the cars up close in person, talk to our engineers, learn about the safety, the engineering aspects of it. So a little bit about, to your point, Oliver, around I think what we were really trying to do is take something that felt scary, that felt big, that felt like I could never do this. What is this? And break it down to make these students really feel like, oh, this is a career that's accessible to me, and I understand what it means to participate in this industry, and this is something that's available again to me and a place that I can pursue. And that was, again, a huge part of this programming, was as much about awareness and building, creating a place for these students in the AV industry. And we found that to be really successful and are going to be repeating the program again in the fall.
So 2 things that stood out for me. One, we definitely have to figure out a way how we can bring that specific program across the other 17 community colleges. And then 2,
So it wasn't LA, it was latech.org. So not the community
okay,
college
awesome. So
program.
how we can bring that here into the 19 community colleges. And then 2 is the challenge that I hear consistently is that bringing awareness into the industry and understanding the real components. There's a lot of misconceptions as well to the industry. So that's definitely a big challenge. I would like to stay with you, Ariel, and kind of focus on the next question. I know you and Oliver mentioned soft skills. So in your view, what are some soft skills that are particularly important for success within the industry? And then do you see any training credentials or certificates that are currently in high demand?
I think for us, when we did the program with LA Tech, we really focused on 2 things. There's around networking. A lot of jobs in tech are often, it's who you know, right? And we were trying to break down that barrier and giving these students, scholars, access to a network, access to the Waymo network. And then it's one thing to have access to that network, but how do I actually access them? What does it mean to network? What skills, how do you have a successful conversation with people? What type of topics do you bring up? How do you move beyond just, so can you hire me, right? So giving them that network, and B, the skills to be able to network successfully, was a huge part of our program. And then the other piece was around, and related, was around interviews. And we had about 8 Waymo staff do mock interviews. And there's nothing like actually having to really answer questions and then having to put together coherent answers on the spot, and really working with the scholars to support how do you answer an interview question effectively. What are things you want to highlight? So we found that both of those, again, the networking and that one-on-one support in the interviews, was really helpful to the scholars, to help them feel more confident, and to help them understand, to help them really give them the skills to be able to apply for careers in the tech industry.
No, thank you for that. Oliver, one thing we've heard across any industry that we're working on is the importance of soft skills, and the educators are doing an excellent job, I feel. But very interesting to hear what you feel are particularly important soft skills here for this industry. And then as well, part 2 question, do you see any training credentials or certificates that are currently in high demand?
Okay, so for soft skills, I truly believe in time management is something. I do know in classes students tend to be led like, hey, this is how much time we have, this, right? But in the real world, when working, you have 8 hours, but you have to make the most out of everything, right? So if you're making like 80% productivity, you're probably not gonna stay employed for, much longer, right? We have to be like 100% or above. So time management, definitely. Problem solving as well. Be able to solve complex problems, right? Piece different things together. And lastly, there's parts people, right, that are all part of the industry. Technicians are only as good as their team too, right? Like when I was a technician, like if I was to be successful, my advisor had to be successful, my parts people had to be successful, my service leaders, management, everyone had to be successful as well too. So to be able to communicate and do well with every part of the business, that's super important too. Because I know plenty of guys that are just really good at fixing cars and they're just miserable, you know.
No, thank you for that, Oliver.
Oh,
So
yeah. And as far
teamwork.
as certifications, sorry, really, I guess anything and everything is good to have, but I would definitely think like having a good fundamentals in like electrical is good too, because some of those problems are decently complex, right? So having electrical certifications, and also too, most people forget that technicians not only just fix cars, but we have to use computers too. So being good at Excel, browsing the internet, messaging apps, right? Being able to check emails and all those things are pretty important too. Uh, so certifications maybe along those lines too help.
Thank you, Oliver. I didn't mean to cut you. I think you were just kind of your Wi-Fi's a little slow on my end, so maybe it's on my end, but my apologies. But no, those are great, that's great feedback. The component of also being able to utilize technology and computers, it's very, very important. We'd love to hear from Tim, as Tim operates, as mentioned, a vast majority across the region. What do you feel are some of the most important soft skills in particular for success? And then any training credentials and certificates that are currently in high demand that you're seeing?
Let's see. No, I mean, I think it depends on the institution as far as, where the technician goes to school, as far as what certifications they will have. And then often there are manufacturer specific programs that they can join once they've got their basic automotive education done. So in other words, Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Audi, Porsche, Volkswagen, they all have their own, and I'm sure Tesla and everybody else has their own training path that they can go in after the automotive technologies courses have been complete, so that they learn manufacturer specific. But, and I know maybe this is more just different, social commentary or whatever. We know that the workforce or they're young men, right? And I know at 24 years old, I didn't know which way was up either. So no judgment, but they're not really, preparing them for life, I think, is very, very important. They don't have a lot of life skills. The educational system doesn't really go into finance, the personal finances. They don't go into credit management. They don't go into, just what it takes to work, and to dedicate your life as a professional. So there's not a lot of that, and it's a shame, because you get young people that can screw their lives up pretty quickly just because they were never, exposed to these types of thought. So whether they get into a debt issue, or whether they mismanage their credit, or whether they and that's these small mistakes that can be made at a young age can unfortunately, echo down the line and affect their overall success in the career. So I know that they're not going to, if they're in an automotive program, they're not necessarily there to learn about those extra things, but since they're not fully prepared, it is something that I think that, if I was going to suggest, soft skills, just, those types of personal development classes, saying, okay, this is how this works. As far as special certifications, again, if they have manufacturing specific training, that's always That's huge because they've already devoted 6 to 9 to 13 months of additional time and training for that particular brand. So that gives them a huge leg up. It also gives them the confidence that they can actually see themselves working on those particular vehicles. So, you know, that is a big part of it, just making sure that they can envision themselves, you know, actually working on those types of cars. But that's it.
Oh, great points, Tim. Jeff, like to segue to you for any final thoughts on this specific question.
So I probably echo some of the stuff these guys said, but work ethic is very important. Problem solving and time management is really, especially for someone that's really never had a full-time job and they're coming in as a lube tech, is keeping those guys busy all day long, because it's easy to get on your phone. If you walk around a dealership, you'll see everyone on their phones. So I think you have to create a culture in your shop where, you know, we've kind of created a culture where our technicians are holding our advisors accountable for selling stuff, because if you don't have good advisors, then the techs aren't going to be busy. And then that creates a negative culture back there. So having that culture is really important. And we've done something a little bit different at Honda Pasadena. Is we've got team leaders in the shops with headsets on. We've got a staging area for cars that are waiting. Advisors are on headsets. They when someone pulls in the drive, it's all hands on deck. So it's like everybody's knows that car, when it comes in, it's important to get that thing in and out. And the sales, and we have a really good process that helps develop some of these soft skills. As far as certificates, I'm gonna plug Honda Pasadena City College. Honda just got the PACT program in over at the Pasadena City College, which Honda invested about $500,000. They gave 3 Honda Pilots, an Acura RDX, a Civic, an Integra, 2 Honda Accords, and 3 Odysseys, and then tools to work on those cars. So if you enroll in that and you're a PACT program candidate, if I see that on your resume, I'm going to probably hire you automatically because you already worked on those cars. You've already been trained by a Honda technician, or the instructors have gone to the training. So whenever we see that certificate on someone's resume, it's almost an instant hire, because we know they've put a lot of effort into that, and they can come right in and start working on Hondas because they already know how to run the computers. They already know how to do the diagnostic, the electrical. So that's a really important certificate for me. And Rio Honda was the only school around that had that before. So now that Pasadena City College has it, all the dealerships around are going to benefit from that. And hopefully I benefit the most, but I'm sure the other ones will benefit as well. So.
No, thank you for that, Jeff. I want to bring in a different question now. I understand that artificial intelligence is a big component. I understand that in the majority of these occupations, it's not going to be directly able to change an oil or fix a car, but any way that you foresee AI changing the current industry, maybe leveraging to be more effective or minimizing the workforce, how do you feel that will be an impact, Jeff, or if it's already been an impact?
I don't know that AI is I could replace positions here. Obviously, your call center and stuff like that, you can have some automation with telephones and outbound messages, and marketing is one thing where a lot of it can be AI driven. When you take your CRM and your database, and you can send out like really targeted messages to people that have been on a page on your site. I mean, that's where you can really get a good customer experience. I haven't figured out a way to eliminate payroll with AI yet. I have figured out a way to consolidate positions from multiple stores because of scanning and that kind of technology. But I think there is a way to do it with some clerical roles. I don't know about technicians, though. I think that's going to be a person in your shop. So if you figure it out, let me know. But I haven't figured that part out yet.
No, that's great, Jeff. It's great to hear because, I don't foresee it again replacing your technicians. But I guess the broader question is for the other panelists. It's open to anyone who wants to kind of input. Do you see AI being leveraged to support your business? Is it currently being leveraged? Do you foresee it as a tool to assist, or Any inputs on AI, maybe on Waymo's part of your business? Again, we'll open up to any of the panelists.
Oh, I'd like to add something about the AI. As a technician, a lot of times you come to the answer just by talking to people. If AI can grab a lot of information and come up with similarities of things, they can try to lead you in the direction like, hey, we've seen, let's say, 100 within your area the last week, right? Check this. And the technician goes and check it. It should help speed up and possibly make the technician a lot better at what they do.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Definitely being able to kind of diagnose quicker and faster and get to the point. I think that's an interesting component. I think Tim, you were about to say.
I was just going to say, I think there will be an eventual transformation on the diagnostic side with AI. Obviously, AI in healthcare is going to be a substantial change in how, it can already basically do a lot of diagnostic with visual. So in other words, sending scans and x-rays and everything else to AI is actually, that's very commonplace on the medical side. My wife is in medical, so, and she's in business intelligence and automation. So I hear it quite frequently. AI in cars is going to be changing things as well. I mean, Tesla's got the best AI situation with their neural networks on driving. But beyond that, as far as when cars have embedded AI, which they will, over the next couple of years, I'm sure that there'll be enhanced diagnostic capabilities within the car itself to report the findings of what's wrong. I mean, there's some very good, robust diagnostic technologies built into cars today to help us fix them. But I'm sure with the next level, there'll be additional information available to help remedy cars and basically more predictive technologies in regards to if there is an issue that's in development. So again, we're at a technological point in time where this is just, it's going to explode. How it happens, it's not going to replace humans, but it's going to be augmenting their abilities and or just, assisting us in making sure cars are running properly and that, the customers remain, safe. So I think that it's, I've been in this for 40 years and it used to be a miracle that cars had power seats, so now it's just the amount of things that have changed in the last 40 years is just unbelievable. It's mind-boggling. And how it's going to develop over the next 10 is going to eclipse all of the first 100. So we're really, really at a precipice as far as, change.
No, definitely. Innovation definitely drives the economy and being able to keep with our supply and the technical aspect, I think being tech savvy is going to be very important. But Ariel, would love to hear any inputs. If not, we can definitely segue to the next question.
Yeah, this is not my area of expertise, so why don't we move forward?
No worries. Now I actually would love to segue and introduce my colleague Alicia, who will be moderating the last portion. Again, we will end the discussion around 12:30, 12:40 to allow for the faculty and deans to engage directly with the panelists. But Alicia, the floor is yours.
Great, thanks, Jose. I think some of this was already touched upon, but kind of curious to hear what you would think within how can the community colleges really help you address your workforce gaps and needs, and if you could create your own ideal curriculum within the industry, specifically in the automotive technology curriculum, what would it look like to you? Can we start with Oliver?
Yeah, so in Canada, we have a version of a STEP program, but Canadian technicians are actually tested by the government and you have to be licensed. I feel like the training and work experience go hand in hand together. So I think right now, the way we train technicians are training and work is separate. And in a technical field, it doesn't necessarily provide the best for students. Being in the classroom all the time without actual work experience. So possibly like some kind of paid apprentice or program that comes about, like the electricians do or plumbers do. Something like that would definitely benefit.
No, that completely makes sense. Having hands-on experience would really help benefit. And if you could kind of create your own curriculum, is there anything that you would specifically put into it?
Um, well, it's kind of like how we do it at Tesla now. So we split half the time in classroom and then half the time at the service center. But we do end up paying our students too. So I'm not sure if it's quite feasible for everyone to do that.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you so much for sharing. Tim, do you have any thoughts on that as well, of how community colleges can really help address workforce gaps and needs that you might have? And if you can kind of organize your own curriculum within that field, what would it look like to you?
Well, I would agree with Jeff in regards to the the unbelievable situation at Pasadena City College. Again, that's our closest college, but the Honda program that is there, I think ultimately everybody should have an affiliation with a manufacturer or a group of manufacturers. General education in automotive technologies is great, and you need it, but the specialization is really what dealerships are looking for. So aligning with either an OEM manufacturer or a dealership group locally, or something to help carry the load and benefit both parties moving forward, I think is huge. Curriculum wise, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of students that think that they like to work on cars, and they go to school and they spend a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years of hard, of doing it, to find out that they don't like working on cars. It's sad, because they've taken the time, expense, and realize, they might enjoy aspects of it, but the job itself is more difficult than they anticipate. So, being able to get them into dealerships or into workshops to actually see what it's like is very important. Yeah, as Oliver mentioned, in Canada it's different, and obviously in Europe they have a full apprenticeship program, which is years long, where here in the US, we just don't have that. So an affiliation with a local dealership, an affiliation with an OEM that they can actually spend time in the dealership to understand how it works and how to really succeed as a professional career for the long term is really key.
No, that's a great point. I think having that affiliation and connection is really helpful. Jeff, do you have any thoughts on that specifically as well?
Not on the curriculum, but as far as what Tim said I have so many people in my dealership that, even technicians that started as technicians and now they're doing other things. And so I think that the awareness of the community colleges can say that, hey, you may come in as a technician, you may end up a general manager someday, or you may end up a service advisor. It's not like the end of the road if you're not going to be stuck in that job if you don't want to do it. And I think that a lot of people, some of my best advisors were technicians, and now they don't get their hands dirty, but they can sell because they know how the car works. And so it's much easier for them to describe what the car needs and to sell that to the next technician. So I think not just closing it off that, hey, just because you went to school for a technician and you get into a dealership, maybe there's a different path for you once you get in there. So, but I'm happy to have that Honda program over there, because it just reinforces everything that we do. And I hope no other manufacturers get in there like that, but I wouldn't blame them if they did. I'm sure the community colleges would love to have more programs like that, but it's a great program, and Honda supports it. So, but I think that people, to take it one step further, that local high schools should probably start recruiting and talking about these programs at the community colleges to plant the seed earlier. So if there's a local high school that, maybe I could get involved with, that would partner up with Pasadena City College that has a shop program, that would be a good transition to get more people into that program and then see what happens from there.
No, that's a great point. I think having awareness and early start and starting it even earlier, like high school, I think that's a really great point to have. Erin, do you have any thoughts on that question as well?
Yeah, I think the way I think about it and Waymo thinks about it is that we have a responsibility for ensuring that educators and that workforce efforts are really up to date on the demands, are up to date on the labor demands of new technology and the associated skills and credentials required. All of which is to say, I think forums like this and really conversations with staff at companies like Waymo, with community colleges to really dive deep into what are the skills we need, what's lacking, what are the gaps, what are the expertise, what could you do, community colleges, apprenticeship programs, et cetera. I really think this all starts with really good one-on-one conversations to really start to dive deeper into the skill sets, the needs, the expectations, and then to start building from there.
Thank you so much for sharing. I think you touched that base already, but in relating to that, what hiring positions do you think would best benefit from either a short-term certificate program or even a dual enrollment program or even internships? Do you have any insights on that, Ariel?
Well, I think, a lot of the jobs like vary across disciplines for us, from software engineering, data science, robotics, fleet maintenance, repair, and more. So those global categories around production, distribution, again, maintenance, upgrade, repair needs, and that there's opportunity within each of those. So I think there's definitely I think we often focus on the repair piece, but I think it's good to think the community college curriculum is vast. So are there software engineers or supply chain, right? I don't want to get stuck in this automotive repair necessarily when there's a whole breadth of jobs in the AV industry that both require a college and don't require a college degree or an associate's degree. So I think there's a lot of opportunity that just needs to be explored more in depth.
No, that's a great point, having that diversity and awareness in all these different fields where it's not just a specific niche. I think that's really important and key. Jeff, do you have any thoughts on that question as well?
Actually, I'm sorry. I was reading a direct message about a high school PAC program when you said that, so I didn't hear the question. Apologize.
Yeah, no worries. The question was just specifically on hiring positions. What do you think would best benefit from either a short-term certificate program or a dual enrollment or internships of that such?
I think the internship is the best thing, and that PAC program that Pasadena City College has part of that is working in the dealership, so they actually get on the job training while they're enrolled in that program. So that's, for me, that's the best, because you get to actually go in there and you get to feel the culture, see the environment, and you get to really see what we're doing over here. So
No, that's a great point. Thank you so much for sharing. Tim, do you have any thoughts on that specific question as well?
Yeah, I mean, basically internship / just being involved in the environment itself is very, very key, because especially very early, because they'll find out whether it's for them or not prior to investing in the education and or in the time. I guess I would really suggest that the emphasis for the community college programs, because they are community colleges serving their community, is to really make sure that there's an anchor in the community. Kudos to Jeff and his team. I know Pasadena is looking at in the high school level as far as vocational to try to better align themselves with PCC. So there's city involvement from the high school to the college to the local employers. So I think that's ultimately the strongest way of doing things. And that's the best method overall, I think, in getting that buy-in from the local employers, because, let's face it, these technicians that graduate that live locally are going to need to find jobs locally. So, it isn't that they're going to be remote workers. They're not going to be, driving, 75 miles to go somewhere. They're going to need to work locally. And to have that tie-in is really the key to success, in my opinion.
No, that's a great point. Thank you for sharing. Oliver, do you have any thoughts on that?
Right. So short-term certificates, if there's 2 or 3 classes, just general automotive, maybe possibly some basic maintenance things, and just overall functionality of vehicles that will help us, because Tesla, we have 3-month internships. We call them technician trainees, and we'll bring them into the service centers and we work with their school schedule and let them experience what it's like working full-time or part-time at an actual shop that runs. And from there, after the internship, they can decide if they want to pursue, further training, or if they want to apply to come back as a full-time technician, or if it's just not for them, right? So, but the problem is we do need to have some kind of basic skills there first. We can't just hire somebody, hey, do you want to fix car? There's safety things involved and there's basic things. Some of these students are pretty young, right? And they might not even have like a year or so of driving under their belt. So, right.
If I could add just one thing, maybe just to make sure that everybody's aware. So as I mentioned before, there are manufacturer-specific programs that if you want to go to any of, at least, I can really only speak to what I know, which is the European brands. So if you, as a technician, wanted to apply to be a Mercedes-Benz or BMW, Audi, Porsche, Volvo, they all have their technician, specific programs. With that, most of the students that enter those programs, the overwhelming majority, are from private for-profit colleges. So, for example, UTI. UTI has the pipeline to those manufacturing programs. Now, some of them you can only enter if you're a UTI student, which is, a problem, obviously. But what I was going to say is they require, and I'm going to, 1 second. Sorry, again, I'm not feeling great, but they require students to actually live, they only offer the training in certain areas. So the student actually has to go attend in person. They might go to Florida, or they might go to, Rancho Cucamonga, they may go to Illinois. So there's, I guess, more of an emphasis on that relationship from the for-profit colleges that probably should be reviewed to see what you can do at a community college level for entrance into those programs.
That makes sense. Thank you for sharing. And then we have our last and final question. And I think we touched base on this, but what do you believe you can work with community colleges to really develop that equitable talent pipeline? And what would an ideal partnership, what would that look like for you? Tim, do you want to start first?
I'm sorry, I was coughing, so I didn't get to hear it. I
No
apologize.
worries. No worries. Just wondering, how can you work within like the community colleges to really develop that equitable talent pipeline? And what would that ideal partnership look like for you?
Well, I think, for us in particular, where, our home base being in Pasadena, and we've had conversations with PCC in the past in regards to what we could do, but obviously Honda has the program, which is supported at a OEM level, which we can't obviously compete with. In our area, and we have dealerships in Ventura County, Orange County, LA County, San Bernardino, and forget the name of the Ontario County. But we don't have enough of a presence within all of the smaller. We don't have enough presence to be able to work with the colleges that are in those locations. So I would just say that we, to make it work best for everybody, that if employers could be identified by each of the communities that they serve to get these programs up and running with a more, like PCC has done with Honda, I think that's the way to go. You got to have support from local employers. If you don't, then you're just, your chances of success are so much slimmer, because if you have buy-in to begin with, then like Jeff said, if someone comes in out of PCC with the Honda program, they have a job. And I'm sure that's just how it works. So having that training and supported by a local employer the whole way through. And in Tesla's case with Oliver, they have local employers because they're nationwide. But as far as dealership groups, at least get some affiliation with them so that they know that there's a path forward. Not only can you be a technician, but you can be a technician at this location. So just making the path obvious to the end, I think, is key.
No, that makes sense, having that local buy-in within the employers that are there. That makes sense. Ariel, do you have any thoughts on that as well?
Sorry, can you refocus the question?
So how do you think you can work within with community colleges to really develop that equitable talent pipeline? And what would an ideal partnership look like with Waymo?
Sorry, I think, thank you for repeating in something I had mentioned before. I think it really comes down to, like, we would love to have conversations and to understand what types of coursework community colleges offer. And I want to just, in terms of the equitable aspect, to emphasize the point that community colleges offer a wide range of jobs, from, tech software engineers, and I want to have the opportunity to explore talent pipelines from any of those fields, really, and to think about how those community colleges can ladder up to OAMO. So I think there's a ton of opportunity, and again, it starts with those right conversations, understanding the skill sets, and the types of partnerships can be very different from. Maybe it's a software engineering class where you have Waymo mentors who just come and speak in the class to talk about what Waymo looks like, all the way to you're describing, with the course where you have hands-on at Honda, right? Maybe there's something, a hands-on experience in the repair. I think there's just a breadth of ways that really, I think of it as a continuum for everything from acts like awareness, thinking what jobs are available in an AV industry, all the way to those real opportunities for that hands-on learning. There's opportunities for to work with community colleges at really every and any point on that spectrum.
No, that's a great point, and that's why I think having discussions such as this is really important. So thank you again for joining. Oliver, do you have any thoughts on that question as well?
Tesla does partner with numerous community colleges around the country, and we are actually looking to expand. So if you guys know anybody, last I heard, we looked at the stats earlier today, right? The body collision repair has been kind of stagnant in terms of job growth, and we do know that people are still crashing cars, right? And it's harder to find body repair technicians than it is service technicians. Especially in the body collision side, we piloted one in Texas, and that didn't work out as well as we thought it would, but we are actively looking to have a intern/training program for collision as well.
Great, thank you so much for sharing. Jeff, do you have any insights or any information?
Yeah, first of all, Oliver, I think the problem with the body shop thing is a direct correlation with all the insurance companies bailing out of California, because insurance costs have gone up 30-40%. Probably you guys all know that, but we have an Allstate office inside a dealership, and it's gotten kind of crazy with insurance. So that's probably a reason why body shops are so hard to get people, because insurance companies don't want to pay. But I will say this, the Honda program has not launched yet. It's going to launch in the fall, but it did take a long time to get that through. I think we started before COVID. So it wasn't something that just happened overnight. It took a long time to get that pushed through. And so, but I did see some stuff that, I've been involved with Pasadena City College for a long time now. And I did see something really good that Nick Alexander did, is they had QR codes down there for technicians to find out about them, where they could give more information about your dealership, be involved in some of those meetings that they have. So there is ways to get talent out of those by marketing yourselves in those arenas. So I would say, the Honda Pack program is just a class you can add on to your general automotive. It's not like you have to take all the other stuff and then you can add that. But there is for the pipeline for us, we would always just try to keep in contact with everyone over there. And, when there's meetings or, attend the meetings and just have yourself out there and be available. And that helps create, pipeline for them to refer people over there if they know how you run a dealership and they know how your retention is. And if you had, like, I think I had 4 or 5 students come here once. I think it was during COVID when everything was shut down. And I just walked them through the dealership and I showed the technician the years that they came to the dealership. And there was guys that have been here 20 years. And I showed all the tags up on the board. I go, that guy came here in 91. That guy's been here forever. So it just showed, it showed them there was like a culture here where people stay. So I think having that relationship with the local community colleges helps build your pipeline. So.
No, that's a great point. Thank you for sharing. And so we kind of wanted to just open it up for any of the deans or faculty here to have, if they have any questions within some of the panels, please feel free to get off mute and ask them as well.
I have something to add, Alicia. Again, I want to thank the panelists. And I think one key component we've heard is that there's amazing things happening currently within the community college, specifically in some colleges. But the essence of the forum essentially is how do we establish equitable pipelines across the 88 cities and the regions and include all 19 community college, because then that leads to more sustainable wages for Angelino. So other ways that we can leverage the partnerships that are currently going or scaling those programs and partnerships. I know Waymo has also, and Tesla just mentioned that they're open to working with all 19 community colleges and figuring out how we can partner up. This is a perfect forum, so we'd love to hear some of the faculty's feedback, any questions. The floor is yours, so please take advantage of the panelists. Alicia, were there any questions that were presented in the registration that maybe the attendees can unmute after you read it off?
Yeah, I can look up some, but there was a question that I skipped. So if anybody wants to answer it, we're just curious, how do you think the programs can really better address diversity and inclusion within the industry? I know that the research and data that Matthew and Lick both shared showed that, it's male dominated and that there isn't as much diversity. So is there a way that we can really help better address that? And I'll open it to any of the panelists that want to talk about that.
Sure. If I can kick that off. Recently, Rio Hondo, I just attended the Women's and Next Generation Vehicles, the WING program. They're actively seeking females to enroll in their program. So they are providing a lot more mentorship. They're providing introductions to workforce, and they are nonprofits and things like that. It's repairing cars is not really a lot of heavy things aren't necessarily as heavy anymore. There's a lot of interior work, there's a lot of troubleshooting that I think can benefit with more female involvement, right? But we looked at the stats earlier, right? A lot of underrepresented communities are actually a majority of the population in service, automotive service technicians. So I think we're possibly just looking for a lot more females to join our industry to bring different perspectives in terms of fixing cars and repairing them.
Yeah, thank you, Alicia. I don't know if you were muted or what happened there, but no, thank you, Oliver. I think that's a great point. I think, what it tends to happen with industry like this and any trade is that non-traditional opportunities are usually, a lot of it has to do is with bringing awareness and what you're doing, what you mentioned. I think a lot of the component as well and the work that needs to be done is also at the dual enrollment and K through 12 level as well, and bringing awareness at a younger age. But we'll love to hear from the other panelists on the specific question.
I mean, from my point of view, it's just the people entering, it's what you're raised with, what you're comfortable with, and what is promoted at home that basically kind of puts you on your career path. So I don't know how many parents of daughters are having conversations about them being technicians. I don't know how you know, and again, what you're used to working with and on comes from, you know, your real neighborhood. You know, are people seeing the cars that they, you know, I mean, here in Southern California, you see a lot of cars that aren't in the other parts of the country, you know, where, you know, they might be dominated by Ford trucks or Chevy trucks or, you know, Highline European or, you know, so it all depends on what people are seeing at home and, you know, what their parents are kind of encouraging them to do and what their high schools are trying to get them to do, whether they're just trying to get them to go into, you know, higher education for sake of having a degree, or whether they're trying to, you know, really get them into having a career that they can sustain over the 30, 40 years of their life. So I think that has more to do with it than anything, in my opinion.
I would add that I think what made me the most excited about the LA Tech program, that we were talking to students in college or had just graduated from college. And a lot of that, again, was around that exposure, that demystifying that this is a place for you, of students, first and generation, students of color. And I think that was really important to, you know, we had an over probably the mentors that participated in the program, and Waymo is, as a tech field, we're definitely lean male, but we had a disproportionate amount of our mentors were female. And I think that was really important to be able to show that, you know, this is a field for women. And I think you often get that from, whether it's in the tech side or the automotive side or wherever, that this is just a male dominated industry, and being able to really demystify that, I think, was really important as a goal for this program.
No, I think I think what you mentioned there, Mario, are all key components. I think that that's definitely a model that we'd love to explore and make connections with the 19 community colleges here, specifically the points that you added. Very interested in a lot of the community college here. Most of them or all of them already are doing dual enrollment and partnering up with school districts, which I think it's very effective model as well. So very excited to make that connection as well. But I think Jermaine, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, no, thank you all for a great conversation today. I mean, for me, you know, in my role at LADC, it kind of brings forth a lot of questions. And so when you look at 4,000 square miles and you look at 88 cities, 100 plus incorporated areas in LA County, and with our carbon neutrality goals over the next several years, I'm just wondering, and we may not have these stats, and that's why we have our industry councils that we kind of utilize to support continuous conversation and bringing together educators and industry. But I'm just wondering, in terms of upskilling specific, like, are you all seeing a lot of folks that are coming in with the upskill needs? Because when you're looking at your adult workers, and I kind of put the question in the chat, you know, we've got a bunch of programs that we're operating right now that are going into underserved communities, and we always uplift the community colleges as of one of several resources because they span across the entire county. And there's actually two not even included on this call, which is and part of the LARC, which is College of the Canes, and also Antelope Valley College as well, which we work with. And so my question really is around, as we build out infrastructure and capacity to be able to support our carbon neutral goals, even when you're looking at the port in the goods movement ecosystem, you know, upskill is going to continue to be a huge need. It's not just your high school kids that are going into your community colleges or university systems. It's the upskill needs, even when you're just looking at just gas station attendants that fix your car locally, right? Or do you guys see those folks coming in to get upskills so that they're able to have the capacity and bring back those certifications to work on EV and or hydrogen cars? I mean, what are you guys seeing? Because I would love, from our vantage point, to include that type of qualitative information in what we're putting out to the community as well.
I could chime in. So high voltage repair, or, you know, for BEV vehicles with hydrogen is not something that has any relevance currently in the world I'm in. So at least for battery electric, the Sorry, hold on one second. The high voltage class is a very difficult to get into, and basically what's happening is that the best technicians that are on that are within the dealership group are the ones that get trained into battery electric. So as with anything that comes through, the most competent people get trained first, and then it becomes more and more accessible. As far as whether their class sizes are very limited because it's still a newer technology to most OEMs. And so it's in its infancy as far as adoption, but it's not going to be an infant for long. It'll be a teenager very, very quickly, and an adult before we know it. So but as far as people getting trained, it's just such a hard thing to get trained into, and you have to have the credentials to get into the programs. So it's really not available unless they're a seasoned professional with a lot of accreditation within the brands.
And Jermaine, I can touch on the hydrogen. We sell the Clarity was a hydrogen vehicle. We're getting the CRV, which is a hydrogen vehicle. And when they first rolled that out, and my technician had to drive it in the back where there was a ground wire hammered into the ground to destatic the hydrogen tank. I mean, nobody wanted to be around that thing because everybody was scared. So there's a whole different level of training for those cars that, like Tim said, you want your best guys working on those cars, because just that hydrogen stack is like a $20,000 part. So you don't want like a lube tech or anybody touching that. You want your top guys. So I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, we're new to electric. Honda's late to the game. They're getting into it now. They had a Fit EV and they had a Clarity EV, but now they've got the Prologue, which we're not seeing the demand yet, but it's kind of slowed down. The electrical market, the sales side has kind of been sliding a little bit according to my data that I'm seeing. I don't know if anybody else is seeing that data or not.
No, thank you a lot. Because I mean, some of the things we're looking at LADC, we know there's tons of new EVs that are going to be kind of more readily available, given the supply chain, 2025, right? And so as you start seeing, kind of the tax incentives, et cetera, and the push for folks to buy and the demand goes up, one of our primary concerns is our underserved communities, which most of our community colleges actually have a college that's within reach of one of those many different underserved areas in LA County. And so it gives me pause for concern, because when you're talking about trades, a lot of our returning citizens, individuals, and in underserved communities in general, they go into those trade-oriented kind of occupations, right? And so what ends up happening, what we even see in the data, is, are folks going to get left behind? Are people going to have opportunities? Because I've heard a few times on this call, you need your top, kind of folks working on the more advanced vehicles. So meaning someone that can fix, a standard gas powered vehicle probably is not going to be able to work on your Tesla, and vice versa. And so we want to make sure that we kind of close that gap and we don't leave folks behind. So
those top skilled people also put in a lot of training and effort and time to become a top skilled person. So there is a career path that you have to get to that level. So there's no easy jump to that master tech option. A lot can go wrong with a car that the dealership can be on the hook for if you don't put a drain plug in properly. So you have to make sure that these trainees or wherever they come from, it doesn't matter, they all have that basic skill set to get to that top level. So it's we provide that. You got to go through the steps. There's no shortcut to get to that top level.
Absolutely. So that's a good pin for this, because I'd love to, I know we're running close on time. I'd love to kind of continue this conversation. Jose and team, maybe we can make sure we follow up with our employer partners here, because our industry councils, Jeff and Oliver, Tim, and Adriel, you know, they really service that continuous feedback loop so we can continue to have these conversations and figure out solutions together, and offer resources, and then bring in our educators like the community college systems, our university systems, et cetera. Because I definitely see, you know, some continued conversation here. But thank you all so much.
Yeah, no, thank you, Jermaine, and thank you, panelists. Again, want to put the call out for any of the faculty and deans here. If you have any questions, I know, Alicia, you said there was a few questions that were presented within the registered, but again, we'll love to hear specifically from the faculty and deans. There we go. So if you have a question, feel free to unmute yourself. The floor is yours.
So I do have a quick question. Right now, our EV classes are considered elective courses for our automotive students, but I would love to hear from the industry whether or not you feel that should be part of the core curriculum.
100% yes.
Yeah, so for me, I think it should be part of the core curriculum as well. Just basic, I guess, manufacturer specific, it will still be very important, but definitely having that experience and coursework will get you, you know, it'll put you ahead of most applicants.
I agree as well. Should have that as part of it.
Armin, real quick, I got a follow-up question to what you just asked. I wonder, because I know Rio Hondo, you know, they have the whole Tesla component. The curriculum that you all have, is it similar? Is it different? You know, how, like, what's the differentiation there in terms of curriculum?
So right now, our EV courses, our curriculum was written by one of our full-time faculty members who came from industry and had experience with that. So he's put together the curriculum of what he feels is important for our students to be exposed to. And I have faculty here who can speak to it, but I mean, they get down into the batteries, take the batteries apart. So he really tries to give them a core foundation of everything EV. But again, those courses are still elective courses. They're not part of it's a stackable certificate onto the core curriculum of, you know, the automotive courses. But, you know, some of the faculty have brought up, they feel that maybe it should be part of the core curriculum and not just elective. And so I'm really interested to see what industry has to say, because that will drive what we do with our curriculum as we update it.
Got it. No, thank you for that. And the reason why I brought that up, and it's funny you said battery swap, because as we talk to a lot of our partners at the ports, for instance, with the 18-wheelers, they're suggesting that as one of the major solutions to hauling goods across the country is battery swap. May be helpful when you're talking about the EVs and whatnot.
Automotive technologies are changing. You might as well equip your students with all of them.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, no sense not to. If it's this stackable option, or whether it's part of the core curriculum, at least if it's available, because it will be changing over the course of their career. There's no question. Whoever's starting today, brand new, will eventually be working on those cars. So might as well prepare them for the future.
No, that's a great point, Tim. I think it's necessary to, you know, start early and provide those skills, because in the long run, they're going to be more marketable and they're going to be ready for success within the industry. But a few more minutes, maybe we can ask another question, faculty and deans, any questions that you may have. If not, we can definitely segue it to Alicia for a question that was presented, maybe just one.
Yeah, I can send one. David Wong from El Camino asks, what do you think the future trends will be specifically in hybrid vehicles? Will there be adaptations of multi-speed transmissions?
So I do know the Germans have multi-speed transmissions in their battery-powered vehicles, but as far as Tesla goes, I'm not aware of anything that is in the pipeline for having multiple speeds. we just spin our motor faster.
Thank you, Oliver. I think for us, again, we want to thank the faculty and deans for being in attendance. We want to thank the panelists for the great feedback. I think one of the consistent things that we hear in order to kind of mitigate that dominance on the male side is bringing career awareness. We also heard of some of these soft skills that are important, and then just the basic understanding of fundamentals and how that's very important within this industry. It's a growing industry that's going to continue to grow 6% to 2029. We all see that the sustainable wages, there's great opportunity, as Jeff mentioned, across, as well as Waymo said mentioned, you may start off as that technician, but there's others opportunities as well. So again, we'd love to thank everyone. We'd love to continue this partnership. Again, this is a forum, only the beginning. Thank you so much for participating. If there's any more comments, feel free to unmute. If not, again, thank you so much.
Before we leave, I'm just gonna do a quick survey poll, if that's okay for everybody to fill. That would be really great. I'm gonna launch it, yeah.
Once again, thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great weekend, and thank you so much for taking the time on your Friday. We'll follow up with the panelists. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.